This is Zettelcast, brought to you by readers, writers, thinkers, and teachers from LilyPub, along with our partners in thought, our Zettelkastens. In this show, we share discoveries that our Zettelkastens have shown us.
There you go.
And compare notes on how we're using this marvelous invention in our creative work. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Brooke.
Do it again.
All right.
Episode 13. Splicing, Dicing, and Connecting. Trouble at the Link.
Welcome to this episode of the Zettelcast. We're episode 13. I don't think it's going to be unlucky, but I'm not superstitious in any way, so I don't care. and Julianne can cut that out.
No. I like it fine.
So what we're going to do today is we have two activities planned. One is designed to show the power of connecting thoughts and the amount of energy that it gives to an individual when you're working. And I originally created this as an exercise to show to friends why a Zettelkasten is so powerful. And it's a simple two-part exercise that I gave them just around creating words. Pick a word at random out of an article or TV, anywhere, just a word at random, and write a sentence or two that uses that word. Put it on a card and set it aside. Do it again. Do it again. Well, eventually it's going to get pretty boring. How many words do you want me to do? Just, well, so what? But then the fun comes in after you've got a short stack of those. Okay, shuffle them up and grab two at random, hold them together. Okay, now put those two ideas together and make a sentence or two. Suddenly your mind goes alert, your energy goes up, your spirit lifts. This is fun. And that's what you get in a Zettelkasten, because you're always combining ideas when you put the two cards together. That is part of why a Zettelkasten will give you back more energy than it consumes to keep it. Mm-hmm. How on earth do you miss when you have that kind of a system to play with? It's just play generates more play. So we're going to do that today, but we're going to do it with cards from our Zettelkasten. So we've all brought a few cards, two or three, or one or two or three from our own Zettelkasten. We're going to pick people at random to pull, to show one of their cards and tell us what's on it. And then we're going to put somebody on the hot seat. Well, there'll be three people to choose from, so you'll get to raise your hand if you want to be on the hot seat. And each one of us will have a chance to put together two cards that neither of which we created and come up with a thought that combines them. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, Victoria, show us one of your cards and tell us what the card is about. You can just hold it out.
I'm just going to take the one off the top of the stack, and these were absolutely chosen at random. I just reached in and pulled two things out. So the first one on the stack, this is a term called the cone of uncertainty. Mm-hmm. So in special ops, in security, particularly in espionage, there are basically three areas of being able to make an informed decision about either an operation or a situation. So picture a cone in the middle. You know, it's got the skinny side here and it's got the big open side over there. Coming out of the skinny side is something called the timeline of the known reality. Okay, so the skinny side of the cone is what we know. The inside of the cone, if you imagine it as a cylinder, like a funnel, the inside of the cone is what we call the area of predictability. What comes out of our reality and into that cone, which we can predict, is the most reliable intelligence tool. As the cone opens up and gets wider at the other side, you become closer and closer to the unknown, and therefore the unknowable, and things going sideways, fallible, upside down, no intel, and you can't make accurate predictions. So in special operations for security, we want to keep our decision making in the cone of uncertainty, preferably towards the timeline of reality, which gives us the most likelihood that what we're predicting or believing about a situation is going to be correct. So, cone of uncertainty.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Julianne, just so I keep track of it, how many cards did you bring, and will you tell us about one?
I brought 3.
Okay.
So this is my card is called mentorial writing, and I just coined that myself. Somebody may say it, but mentorial writing. Writing as though mentoring a student on a way of doing something, including how to think through the challenges. So my examples, I've got a couple of examples here, including Martin Fowler's Refactoring book, which is a software classic that just talks you through how to think about taking some code that you or somebody else wrote and making it clean and shiny and elegant and perfect. And he does that with that style where I just feel like, oh, he's right there with me. And I think also Scott Shepard does that in his wonderful Antoinette Zettelkasten book. It's like, stay with me. I know what you're thinking, So yeah, mentorial writing.
Okay. All right. Mel, Deb, do either of you want to take that one on?
We're shooting skeet.
Right?
Mentorial writing, and you said the cone of uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so top of my head, I'm thinking that mentorial writing, it could be utilized to make sure that people who are just coming on board understand the cone of uncertainty. They understand the rules. They understand what's inside and what's outside of the boundaries of the cone of uncertainty, and why each is the case, so that through mentorial writing, so that's writing from other people who have great, functional understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They've written down that functionality, and somebody else, or maybe they together, have gotten together and streamlined even that, so that it becomes, digestibles for the people who are coming along. Anyway, that's what came to mind with those 2 things for me.
Excellent. Thank you so much,
Nice.
Deb. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, Mel, how many cards did you bring today?
I have 3. I can use as many of them as we want to use.
Okay, well, we're going to make sure everybody gets a chance to make a link. So, Mel, do you want to start us off with one of your cards?
Sure. This card came from sort of a meditation while walking, and it was out of a whole line of thought. But this particular card is about good chaos, and my tagline is "Good chaos is creative and productive." Good chaos is creative, expressive, productive. It's when you get into the flow of creation and the ideas are flowing. Any order in this state is emergent, not imposed from outside. There is some structure, as the chaos is confined to a time, location, activity, but within the bounds of that sandbox, it is free to create anything.
Ooh, terrific. Oh my goodness. Well, let's see if there's anything to be made with this one. Okay.
I just want to say, I want to walk where Mel's walking.
Well, it is a wonderful walk. It's along a bike trail alongside the Ohio River, and it's beautiful.
Well, I'm the stone in the shoe while you're walking. Because this card is on patience. And it says, patience separates discomfort from suffering and accepts the discomfort. Compare discomfort, the physical effects of pain, with suffering, the personal involvement with pain. And this comes from Deborah Barrett, who's the author of Pain Tracking. And she said the ability to categorize pain as physical can free one from considering it a personal catastrophe, and so reduces the need and even the need or desire for opiate drugs for people who are suffering from chronic pain that they cannot get rid of in their lives. And so my reaction to that was that patience, the character trait, is this very ability to make this separation and accept whatever is unavoidable in the discomfort. Okay, and Deb's already given one, so Victoria, Julianne, either of you want to tackle this one? Oh, Victoria's got her hand up.
I see patience as a form of as an implementation of good chaos. I mean, it appears to me that in that process, you're in your discomfort, you're in your suffering. That's not something that you can change. It is what it is. But what you can change is, like Mel said, you know, you're looking at it creatively, you're looking at it expressively, you're looking at time and location, which is fluctuating. But the upshot of it is you can choose how you view it, and what emerges out of that is a different kind of control over that pain and suffering. So by shifting your perspective with patience as your virtue, you allow that the chaos that you feel, you know, whether it's the suffering, it's the fatigue, it's the actual pain itself, you allow yourself to transform it because of the way that you see it or you interact with it.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much, Victoria. Very good. All right. Deb, do you want to share a card with us?
Yeah, okay. The card that I had is about. I was thinking which form should I give it to you? Okay, I'll do it this way. The quality of your life is determined by how you EMT. And EMT stands for eat, move, think. So the quality of your life is determined by how you eat, how you move, how you think. That's it.
Okay. Who would like to give us a card to go along with that one? If you're dying to work with that one, then don't volunteer. Okay.
I
All
can
right
do a
then.
card.
Okay, Victoria.
So the second card that I chose is from the Book of Jubilees 10:12, and it's specifically in regards to the things that were revealed by the angels in order to inform post-flood humans. So in this one, it's the Archangel Raphael who gifts to the son of Noah a book that contains how to use herbs and medicinals to heal people. So that's the biblical origin story, if you will, of how we learned to use nature's remedies in order to heal the human body, the human spirit, and the mind.
Ooh. Okay. Who wants to take that one up?
I'll go.
All right,
Um,
ma'am.
the acronym was Eat, Move, and Think, right? So, well, obviously, if you're taking herbs and you're eating them, so this is a way. These herbs that were given to Noah are a way to improve one's life through eating something or drinking it. And I don't know the specifics, having not read this, but a lot of times when there's like herbal remedies, there's usually a ritual that goes along with it. There is a movement that has to take place in order to properly charge the herbs and make them really work. So, and then, thinking, of course, we all know the placebo effect, and there's also the nocebo effect where what you think can harm you. So however much power the herbs have in themselves, there's also the power of thinking that they're going to help you and they help you. And I mean, the placebo effect is huge. I remember right, something like 15% of the efficacy of anything is placebo effect. So I mean, it's a lot. It can give you an edge. So I just eating, moving, and thinking, that's all there in this story of the herbs, the healing herbs being given to Noah.
Right. Thank you so much, Mel. And can I have you start us off then with a card?
Sure. Okay, this is one that is inspired by E.F. Schumacher, as we've come up before. Convergent problems are problems where possible solutions converge on a single point. They can be solved. To find such unity, all the levels higher than the material must be excluded, making convergent problem solving solely existent in the physical level. Divergent problems develop solutions that are opposed binaries. They cannot be solved. Only by using abilities from a higher level can they be transcended. For example, freedom versus order transcended by brotherhood. Sorry, there was a lot of defined terms in there that I didn't define, but I guess we can go with it. I'll explain anything if anybody has any questions.
Okay, great. And I'll supply the second one. And this is kind of a motivational card. The tagline is write as though your voice needs to be heard. It does. As soon as you are ready to publish, do so. Your voice is needed in the world. There are truths only you can express in a way that some others can understand and make use of. And this comes from Sertalanges, The Intellectual Life. And my reaction is, this holds for all of us as writers, because without our voices, the world will be poorer. And Julianne, that puts you squarely on the hot seat.
Well, I'm going to go with something that pinged for me with just these two words, convergence and divergence. And that is because in group facilitation, you have to, when you are the facilitator, you need to be prepared for the fact that there needs to be divergence in order to get all of the people's thoughts, and eventually you want to converge. And that feeling in the middle, the model in the middle, when people are like, this is getting stupid, when are we going to be done? Is a key challenge for the facilitator. And I think that it works very nicely with bringing out every voice. We're talking, Sertalanges was talking about in writing, but I don't think that it's limited to the pen.
Nice.
Yeah. It kind of fits with the whole concept of people need to be seen and, and really feel like people have included them in their world and given everyone attention.
Yeah, sometimes it's not just that people want to be agreed with. They just want to be understood a lot of times. It's, go ahead and disagree, but at least engage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julianne. Do you want to start us off with a final round here?
Sure. Well, you'll note why I didn't raise my hand with EMT, because this is probably a little too on the nose. I wrote this over a year ago, and it's not the most well-formed card. It's a personal reflection from around November of last year. Overthinking is a pattern of thought that a person can engage in that it leads to procrastination and self-sabotage in the person's achievement of their goals. Associated with perfectionism, overthinking seeks to avoid mistakes to such an extreme extent that the person takes no or little action and limits their ability to learn.
Ooh.
Hallelujah.
Okay, since I'm going to be on the hot seat, Mel, I need you to
Yes.
give us another card.
Excellent. Excellent, because my third card is like the inverse of that, so it's perfect. Okay. So this is the reflection of my own reflection on a quote from Zettelkasten. And that quote was, "The secret of writing is to stand and study things ardently until they speak to you and themselves determine their own expression." So my actual card, deep attention and study leads to deep understanding. Writing is only difficult when we have a superficial understanding of a subject. Lacking a foundation, we try to cover over it with eloquence. But the foundation of deep understanding, whether from studying books or from studying things directly, can be expressed in simple language with little difficulty.
Ooh.
Cow.
Go.
Okay, so this is also brings in convergence and divergence and convergence, because we're beginning with two very divergent statements. One is but they are really kind of interesting because they actually speak to two different minds. And so that's how I would link them. I would say we have a person who is frightful of participating, in part because as Mel's person who studies and studies and studies until they can't help writing because the thing is speaking so loudly into their minds that it has to spill over onto the written page or they'll go crazy. And it's their two kind of opposite perspectives, but it also provides an avenue for a healing hand if the person who is overthinking, and I would say not just perfectionism, but procrastination, because of their fear factor that maybe they don't understand the object well enough. And that ties back to another card that I have from Victoria, where she wrote about how, because that's what happens to me. My other Zettelkasten cards pop into my mind. I have to put them all together. And she's saying there's no such thing as writer's block. There's only not having enough information to write the scene. And so I think that's how you tie all the three of them in together, that the person who is having too much trouble overthinking is actually expressing fear that they don't have sufficient information to make a wise choice. And so the remedy would be for the person who is just so in love with the object they've been exploring that they can't help writing about it, to just take the frightened individual by the hand and say, come, just observe. You don't have to write anything. Let's just look. Let's just see. Let's just observe. Let's just take it in. Put all thoughts of writing away. When writing is ready, writing will push you to do the writing, and you won't be able to move your pen fast enough to make it happy.
Well said.
Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, that was so thrilling. Thank you so much. You see the power of a Zettelkasten, because a Zettelkasten will put those ideas together in a way that brings up other ideas and brings up other thoughts and just brings so much energy to your work and originality, because it brings fresh perspectives that other people may not have noticed, and which gets us back to Zettelkasten, the need for writing.
Before
Wow.
we
Well,
move on to the next thing, I just want to share, because I'm self-indulgent that way. The cone of uncertainty. Victoria said the cone of uncertainty. So I learned about the cone of uncertainty as a project management way of looking at things, because a lot of times people will take military stuff and they'll bring it into project management.
Sure.
So the person who was teaching this team, he was a person in the team, and he was telling everybody about the cone of uncertainty. And so this is really just about the fact that when you're doing a big project, software project, and it takes 2 years to do, squat virtually about how things are going to play out. at the beginning of that, right? And so you got to keep reassessing where you are in order to not fall into chaos. But that's all fine. He did this presentation. It was in PowerPoint, and he did this drawing of the cone of uncertainty. But to me, my first introduction to it was when somebody had taken his picture of the cone and somebody else on the team, their picture from the corporate directory, and that became his dunce hat.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, Anthony Metivier's magnetic memory method. If I ever need to just call up the cone of uncertainty, I've got the image right now.
That's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
oh. Well, thank you so much for participating in our first activity. Well, our next activity is advancing the stories of Roanoke. In an earlier episode, we each brought our Zettelkasten images of a Zettelkasten that was discovered in the Roanoke community, because that's one of the central ideas that we have that began us, is the idea that people in the modern era have been separated by this great moment of separation that took a whole group of ancestors and moved them apart in a way that they could not communicate across time and space. And now the location has been discovered, much like discovering the lost colony of Roanoke. And the moderns are coming in with their modern minds to try to decipher what they're finding, archaeologically speaking, in the ruins of the society of the ancient ones who are gone. And one of the things that they find are individual Zettelkastens. And so in an earlier episode, we were each invited to introduce our Zettelkasten. And so in this time, we are invited to introduce a character, either the character that created the Zettelkasten that needs to be deciphered, or a little more about the character who deciphers the Zettelkasten. So we're just going to be telling a little bit about our stories, or if you want to read your story, whichever way you want to do it. Who would like to participate in this second activity?
Well, I can go.
Okay.
This is actually the first writing I've done for the Roanoke project, because I didn't do the first assignment. But I've been talking about the character idea that I had of a young person who, due to congenital reasons, can't connect to the link the way that others do. And so he prefers to speak rather than over the link, aloud rather than over the link. And that's considered somewhat childish because only children speak because they aren't connected to the link already. Anyway, I wrote a little bit about him. Javi is his name. And one of his other traits is that since the link is not really pleasant for him, he can connect to it, but it's sort of staticky and doesn't work that well. He likes to watch old videos that he finds in the archive that just, image and sound, whereas I'm imagining the sort of standard entertainment over the link is like these immersive, full, sensual, experiences that you would get through the link. Whereas, well, he doesn't really enjoy that. So he finds these old movies, essentially, videos in the archive, and that's what he likes to watch. And that will serve him well when he comes to trying to open one of the Zettelkastens that they found. So in this little snippet, this is a very brief sketch out of the scene, just getting the major parts. There's another researcher that I don't know who that's going to be. It might be a character that I come up with. It might be one of somebody else's, but I'm imagining it in the place that we've already described, where there's the different writings on the stones and etc. Okay, so Javi and the other researcher stared intently at the words inscribed in the stone. Speak and enter. Javi felt a surge of excitement through the link, muted by the ever-present static. And this is what he hears over the link. I know this. I read it in an old story. The other person cleared their throat and then carefully and clearly spoke. Open, see, same. Nothing happened. Javi was baffled. Forgetting the link, he blurted aloud, What? What does that even mean? And then over the link, it's a password, I think. And aloud, Javi says, Do you mean open sesame? There was a faint click, and the stone slid out of the way, and the scent of paper wafted out of the void.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
All right. Who would like to contribute?
Mine's short. I can go next.
Okay.
So in my little snippet, I introduce a little bit more about my little character. I've named her Alex, and her thing is she also has a strained relationship with the link. We don't know why yet, but the upshot of all of this is I picture her as maybe a kind of early high school age, but she can't read. So she's going to have to make connections. Kathleen and I were talking about establishing meaning and making meaning, and then being able to use that meaning to communicate and ultimately to decipher. So that's kind of the direction where this thread is coming from and heading to. And it's called Learning to Fly because she's going to have to figure some things out. Canoptic jars were a well-known artifact found in the memorial graves containing mummies. The most precious jars were the alabaster, sourced from the Egyptian town of Alabastron, but few remembered, as the link to that history was long lost in The Link. Alex remembered. She didn't know how she knew, but she knew that immersion in hot water could make the jars like marble called marmo de Castellina. She wanted her notes written on a scroll, stored in a jar that also contained the specimens. Then she wanted her jars stored in a box, a locked box. Maybe she'd use the same box where the garden note cards were kept. No one else gave it much thought, but she couldn't stop thinking about it. 1100, the pressings. 1101, the seeds. 1102, the detailed diagrams. The notes. It always ended with the notes. She called up a picture of them in her mind, concentrating on the loopy forms broken up by dash and asterisk and pound and exclamation point. All of the loops and the symbols walking along within the lines. Then it bubbled up to her, slowly at first, then with great urgency. She would copy them by hand. She would will the meaning out of the indecipherable cipher. Then she would master her own.
Oh, love it.
Well, I guess we're having a thing with those who are having their challenges with the link. So I guess we're maybe our story's attracting the deviants of society, and everybody else is just going along pleasantly with the link. Maybe that's one of the commonalities that we have amongst our archaeologists. But mine focuses on the other end of the time frame, when the link is first being created, and the ancestors are creating these Zettelkastens that they know they're leaving for a future generation. We don't know yet why or how they know that they're going to need to do. That hasn't been determined yet, but everybody's very busy creating their Zettelkastens. And then my story brings in a character who is, again, doesn't think in the normal way that people think. And the link is about getting so that we're all at least on a common set of facts, which is a very big problem because it's hard to have communication if people look at the same situation and don't share the same facts. And so, but she was a question of, well, did she even really comprehend what was a fact? So let me read and you'll see what I mean. Ultimately, Teresita was fitted with the link, more because they couldn't agree on the reason it should be withheld, rather than any expected value to be gained in providing her with one. What good is the ability to share facts with someone who wrote as the answer to 2 + 2 a drawing of a star, while answering 3 + 1 with a little picture of a mouse? But while it was troublesome for the others at first, they soon learned to tune her out. Teresita, however, listened to everything, and she began collecting small objects to make sense of what she heard. She filed each small object with a cast-off file card in the handwriting of the one whose thoughts the object captured. Since everyone seemed intent upon assembling their regular file card Zettelkastens, and since in normal life they seldom wrote anything longhand, cast-off cards were easy to come by. Everyone thought the shoebox she carried with her everywhere was her Zettelkasten. But it was just her gathering space. Her real Zettelkasten was the floor, or rather the spaces under the tiles. For the hexagonal tiles capped a honeycomb structure that provided support and insulation for the floor while remaining very lightweight. The spaces accidentally provided a near endless collection of little places to tuck things away once the secret of how to lift the tiles had popped into the link one spring morning. Teresita began dancing with the thought at once, and so as a consequence, no one else heard it. Except, of course, the one who first thought it, whoever he or she was.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Shall I go?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to define some terms here before I get going. So I was thinking about the fact that in the link, you would probably want to have the ability to have, you know, when you're talking to certain people versus direct messaging them, right? So I've got two different modes in the link that you can be straddling when you're communicating, and the intimate one is thou, and the more public one, less intimate, is ye. So that's going back to the Old English words thou and ye. Okay.
Awesome.
And we're going to meet. So this is Jenna, who we've met already. We saw her with Grandpa in the vault, encountering the Zettelkasten of the ancestors. So this is prior to that. This is leading up to how it was that she got to be there. So Jenna and Dylan stepped out of the food court and onto the path that connects the southwest and northeast corners of the campus. Their two heads, nodding, bobbing, and raring, staged a silent pageant above four gesticulating arms. "I'm telling you, I did not see this coming," Jenna insisted. "Oh, I have zero doubt about that," Dylan said. "I'm curious to know what you did see coming." As they were about to pass the Lamy fountain, she saw Chris from Scene Design, sky-gazing from his frequent perch. She was about to do a sneak scan of his profile when he stood right up and strode purposefully toward her. "Jenna, hi. Congratulations on winning the effigy. I can't wait to experience it." To Dylan, still in thou with her, Jenna said, "Beyond the last person I expected to talk with today." Dylan tossed back, "I'll be right with you. I've just got some corn popping." With what she hoped had been reasonable latency, Jenna replied, "Oh, wow, Chris, thanks. Proposal is one thing, but making it stick will be quite another." Dylan cackled. "Who in Jane Austen was that?" Jenna said, "Hey, you're lucky I got anything out. He knocked me plumb off my rope." "I hadn't noticed," Jenna heard over pops and sizzles. The linked have many words for silence. The split-second awkward hitch in the previous moment had been classic 3 crowd. Too often thou, third waits in ye. Every Lydian child in adult care, which was to say every child, would have experienced 1,000 examples of 3 crowd by the time they put 2 of their own thoughts together. Chris broke it with, "Hey, I doubt you know this, but I work evenings at the Henge. I would be happy to help you find a spot for your effigy." Jenna suddenly felt herself to be a very infinitely long and even more infinitely narrow vertical line. Some Jenna operator who didn't depend on Jenna's prior configuration kept patter going. "You mean they literally don't already know where to put it? It's actually up to me?" Chris's eyes smiled into hers. "What they would know better than you, Jenna?" She said, "Well, I feel stupid now. Until this very moment, I figured that part was pure ceremony." Dylan schmoozed into the ye. "How long since you were last at the Henge, Jenna?" Jenna turned to Dylan and said, "Was it that time in junior when you tossed your cookies on Charlotte Hart?" Chris leaned in. "What do you say? I'm there 6 to 10 tonight and tomorrow." It must be said, Chris was showing some talent for picking up cues. Jenna was no longer aware of these men in her midst. She was gone crafting. The effigy's place in the Henge, her call. Dylan sent Chris a fist knock meme of Pixie Kid Jenna ringmastering a cloud circus overhead. What Jenna means to say is, yes, tonight is perfect. Chris said, "Great, just hail me when you're on the way and I'll set up to be your guide." He exchanged a primal packet with Dylan and added, "Bring any friend you want, of course." Jenna touched down long enough to say, "Oh yes, Chris, I can't thank you enough." "My honor. See you tonight." "Bye, Chris," they unisoned to his departing back. "Back in thou," Dylan threw a puff of popcorn at her nose. "Well, Genesis, what have we here?"
Wow.
That's an interesting mix of dialogue to now have to keep track of different levels upon who is privy to the communication.
That's it.
Yeah, can you imagine? Oh, I meant to be saying that in how many times I've done a blast mail with
Yeah.
intimates.
Accidental reply all.
Yes. Stop replying all.
Wow.
I'm just sitting here thinking we're going to need a bigger Zettelkasten.
Oh my goodness. Deb, do you have something you want to share?
No,
Okay.
no. But not that I have prepared something to share in terms of the activity, but the thing that came out to me in this discussion was something I think you said, Kathleen. I'm not sure who said it actually, but it spoke about the idea of or maybe it was you, Julianne. It was the idea of the survival of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Was that you, Julianne?
Yeah, that's from Lynn Kelly's book, the
Right. Right. The idea of these specialties and the needs that they served in the decoding of things as they unfolded. You know, I thought that was demonstrated beautifully during this session. So yeah. So thank you, Julianne.
Thank you, Lynn Kelly. And that's another thank you, Anthony Mativier, because I wouldn't even know about her.
Oh, well, okay. He's my guy too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Anybody else have anything to contribute to the second activity before we go into concluding?
Well, I just want to say the whole notion of Jenna you know, I've got this whole notion of we have these yearly rituals, and these rituals, what would be happening in this particular one is that there's some phrase that's gone out of style, and we're kind of cleaning out the link. It's not an unlimited resource. Nobody uses this one anymore, but it was a good one. Let's archive it in the hinge.
Oh.
And so her effigy is of the phrase. I don't even know what it is, but it'll be something. And
Okay.
and then, well, where does it go in the hinge? Right? That was right out of the card picks its parent.
Uh-huh.
The Zettelkasten.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Well, this is definitely going to have some lively angles, which is, the fruit of multiple people bringing their stories together. To take a very complex story like this and just have a single author, it would be very hard to produce so many different points of view. And that is the real benefit of co-writing. We have potentially 10 points of view, 5 of us plus our plus ones.
Yes.
So who wants to lead us next week? Should I take a look at who's been?
It's probably my turn, but I need to have my life settle down a little bit more. New tenants, electrical fixes going in left, right, front, and center. A leak that has to be found and shut down. Too many things are happening. So as a result, I had a paltry showing today. And so I don't want to put myself in the center of something that I can't follow through with for next week. So no, not I.
Well, let me ask this question. And we may have already decided this, I just don't remember. Since that's the week of Christmas, did we decide to go ahead and do our Monday session or no?
I'm fine with doing it either way.
I'm fine with it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We could make it a Christmas
I'm
party.
good. Everybody bring Christmas hat. Yeah, I'm good to participate. I don't think I can lead. I have a huge family dinner the next day, so I'm going to be in full cooking holiday mode.
Well, I think I could lead.
Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
And what do we, we're here. What do we want to give as the title for this one?
The spectrum.
Maybe something that indicates that the link is the link is not quite as perfect. And you brought up the fact that it's not infinite in capacity. And then others of us have brought up that it's not, that people don't automatically connect with it comfortably, not everyone. So maybe something related to
all of this has been about connections, because the first, I mean, that was the whole first activity as well.
And then,
yeah, I would do something with connections, making, breaking, or otherwise.
Splicing.
That's good.
Connecting threads, connecting, sewing together ideas, just spitballing here.
Right?
just say fragments and connections. Because sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't.
Splicing, dicing, and connecting.
All right. That's
The trouble with the link.
We have a winner.
Yep.
All right.
Tori is the title queen.
Yeah.
At my office, I'm known as the dispute queen, so I'll take the title queen.
Well, thank you so much for joining us in this episode of the Zettelcast. We meet regularly over on LilyPub, and you can find us
Where's the card?
at lilypub.org. And at lilypub.org, not only will you find a group on the Roanoke project where you can talk about it and discuss ideas and ask us questions, but there's a whole section on the Circle for Zettelkasten where you can ask your questions about your Zettelkasten, what you're using it for, and Fusion Writing, a wonderful group that Victoria leads that is teaching us how to craft stories using our Zettelkastens, that goes along with her book that is not yet out, but those of us in LilyPub are getting the advantages of it already. Her book on Zettelkasten for fiction that we're all waiting for. So please come on over to lilypub.org. It's the best $8 a month you could ever spend. See you there.
Absolutely. Come see us.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.